confusion about like law of attraction, manifestation, and just actually noticing stuff. Like I said, a lot of the universe is unexplained, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that you thought something and therefore it happened. Things happen and there's chaos. Whether we know the relationship between that, I have no idea. But what we do know is what I just said. You notice the things that you're sort of paying attention to each day and that you're setting intentions about. So there is, there's some truth to it, but also you got to be a bit critical.
Hello guys, welcome back to another mind-blowing episode of the Thakkar show. Today we have Luke Edelston, who has a tremendous journey from a depressed physicist to confident trainer, from an engineer to a business owner, from keto to vegan, who has traveled across the globe, from UK to Asia to Australia, and he is a self-development coach. He is owner of Mindful Productivity, host of Tipping Points podcast, and balances everything by being an engineer. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Luke.
No problem, Jay. Great to be here.
So please tell us about this journey from depressed physicist to a confident trainer. What's that journey? It seems so fascinating.
Yeah, it is quite a journey, and it's been a long one. So I guess I would have started maybe calling myself a physicist about 10 years ago when I graduated, and I suppose it all starts during graduation, during the whole process of learning physics and everything like that, and even before that. So you could start with why do you choose physics, and basically it's because I was good at it. And we can talk about more of choosing career paths and so on. I know you're interested in physics as well, going into that yourself. But during all of that, I was just kind of going with what I'm good at, and I think that's quite good advice in general. And during that, there was these things where I actually had to go and do some presenting of things. There was a module called Communicating Physics, and in that you had to make a poster and then present it and all this stuff. And I thought, I'm not very confident in presenting at all. Absolutely, imagine you like most people, if you stand up in front of a group of people, you just feel scared. Your heart's beating really, really fast, and you just can't concentrate or talk properly or anything like that. So for me, it was that, and I knew it. So I thought, I need to change this. And so it took me many weeks and maybe months of deliberation, and I actually ended up getting my friends to help me with this as well. So I identified there was this Toastmasters public speaking club within university. So then it took a long time, and I needed my friends there as well to sort of support me, if you like. I didn't go on my own. But the first time you went, they're really very welcoming, and for me, being a sort of processy sort of person, I really appreciated the fact it was quite well set out. So you had a whole structure to the whole thing. So you sort of go in, and you have people are all very friendly, and people are interested in developing themselves as well, which is really good. And the first thing you can do in all of that is this thing called table topics, and it's a way of doing very short. I think it's 2 or 3 minutes, just on the spot, and it's probably everyone's worst nightmare actually in terms of public speaking, because you kind of like to think you're prepared, but it might be something really stupid. So something easy describe that time you were an elephant for a day, or something ridiculous like that, and then you just have to riff and just talk nonsense for a bit. And so that's kind of your first introduction into it, and it's just absolutely nerve-wracking. And then they have this whole system of feedback, which is so useful. And so then afterwards, there's somebody who's the table topics evaluator who comes in and says, okay, really great job on getting up, your first time, really encouraging, all this stuff. And then they give you a bit of feedback on okay, so next time try and use ums a bit less, because they have a focus on that. And I'll do that here as well. I'll still and ah, but I'm a human and I'm not trying to be perfect. So yeah, that was the first step. So I did go through some of that and carried on, and they've got a whole syllabus. You go from I think it's an 8-minute first speech, where it's just about you. It's quite easy to talk about yourself, like I am now. And then it sort of progresses onto things that are a bit more difficult and including different aspects. And so they got a whole syllabus where you can just like walk yourself through it. So that was good in terms of building up the confidence and having a self-awareness as well about these things that you say. And I still have the self-awareness of the word so. So is like my filler word. And as I said it, then you get more aware of it, which makes it harder sometimes to then carry on. Anyway, so that's like the public speaking side of things. But yeah, have you ever done any public speaking yourself? I mean, other than the podcast, obviously.
Great. And like you have turned, you have been doing keto diet and you have turned vegan. So what was that journey? Because I think that from whatever I have known about you in through our previous conversations is that you have completely changed from one particular mindset, which was along the general notion of how people used to behave or people used to live in terms of lifestyle around you, and from there you have shifted completely to a different sort of mindset or personality or lifestyle. So like I'm gonna cover these small topic first, like vegan, keto to vegan, and all those topics, and then I wanna come to this whole mindset shift. So yeah, like please tell us about what was your journey from keto diet to vegan diet.
Yeah, okay. I guess it'd start even further back. So as a kid, having no awareness of nutrition, you get fed and your parents cook for you, and then you go to university and then you have to cook for yourself, and then you do the absolute basic stuff. Like I was never someone who got really fat or anything because I was always a bit conscious about that from my youth, really. But at the same time, I really wasn't doing much fitness. Like I do a bit of five-side football. I'd play table tennis, which isn't exactly the most intense sport. Like you don't have to be really fit for that. And I started going to the gym, but it was not consistent at all. So then kind of fast forward a bit, had a girlfriend, still was doing no exercise really. And I remember thinking, I've got like a girly body, like inverted commas, girly body. And I was like, why have I got that and other people have got something else? And it's just silly. Like if you don't do exercise or if you don't do weights, then obviously you're not going to build up the definition. Anyway, so ended up having a breakup and was very upset and had a lot more time. So I was like, right, what am I going to do? I'd recently bought a bicycle, so then started riding around on that, and then started thinking about nutrition and things. And I actually found out that, so I went to a doctor because I'd had this issue where when I was coming up to like a tea time or a lunch time, eating food, just tea time is like a northern thing you say here for eating in the evening. I would notice that before that meal, if I was seeing my girlfriend at the time, we'd end up having arguments just before tea, like every day. And that was because, well, it turns out that I had low blood sugar. I didn't realize it. So I was looking then, all right, why is this? So I thought, okay, I'll just have really big meals, really big healthy meals. So this would be like, and inverted commas, healthy again. So this was wholemeal bread with like a tin of tuna between it, and it would have been just multiple sandwiches, but it didn't fix it. I would still have this sort of crash and feeling rubbish before eating again. So then I went to the doctors and they did some glucose tests and things, and then found out I got reactive hypoglycemia, which basically just means when I've started eating, my blood sugar will then drop just like everybody's does, because your insulin goes up as a peak. Imagine like a heartbeat, the trace that you have a heartbeat. So it'll go up initially as you eat the food because you're digesting the food, the blood sugar is being released into your body. So then it goes up and then it goes down. So everybody has, to some extent, if you eat, let's just say, a regular diet, it'll crash to some extent and you'll feel a bit tired. And then there's insulin that's released in your bloodstream, which then will start converting the glucose, and you'll start absorbing the glucose in your system as well. So then you'll have this rebound effect where it goes back to a sort of baseline normal. And for me, usually people's insulin disappears as you return to normal. And for me, it doesn't really. So I will keep going down blood sugar wise but not terribly. It's not like I'm going to keel over and die or anything. And so this is once you've eaten. So if I don't eat anything in the morning, I don't have this issue. Obviously, I need to eat in general, otherwise I'll die. So, I do. But the result of going to the doctors was that, finding out that this thing. And they were saying, eat little and often, and eat healthily. And healthily meaning like have complex carbohydrates. So have brown rice instead of white rice, have wholemeal bread, all that stuff. Hence the tuna sandwiches I mentioned earlier. So I started to implement that and have more little meals and stuff. So that's for my own personal basis of things. And so also looking at that, if you have more protein, you tend to mitigate the crash that comes back. So the crash is due to the sort of the carb loading of it. So if you've got more carbs in it, and I'm not demonizing carbs here because I'm vegan, so if you have a bunch, let's just say of like 10 chocolate bars, you're gonna have the biggest crash ever. Everybody knows that, and that's because of the amount of sugar in it and the amount of sugar released into your bloodstream and the rebound effect. So I thought, right, I'm going to go for a protein-heavy diet because then I'm going to have less of this crash stuff. I don't want to have a big crash. It's not. It feels bad. Like your eyesight, my eyesight gets worse. Everyone will have this to some extent. I'll get anxious because I'm already prone to that anyway. All that stuff. So I was like, right, I'm going to go. So then I found this keto diet, which is obviously, well, not obviously, but it's a really high-fat, high-protein diet, and actually really difficult to maintain and stick to. So I was listening to a podcast called The Fat Burning Man, and they're talking about paleo being eating paleolithically, which is sort of like, inverted commas, as they used to, we all used to run around like chasing down bison and eating meat for every meal, which is complete rubbish. It's not true. Actually, the old-fashioned diet was eating plants a lot and finding, a bit of, they might raise some cattle, but it's like a once-a-year thing because they don't have mass farming like we do now. So looking back in the past, it's not really a very smart way of doing things. So anyway, went all keto, and it helped with the blood sugar thing, no doubt. And so then fast forward, I moved to Melbourne eventually after going to Southeast Asia, traveling, and ended up in Melbourne, and I was living with this guy called Liam, and Liam was vegan, and you tend to get with vegans have got a bad reputation, and they're a bit preachy, and I'm going to get a bit preachy here as well probably, but they get a bit preachy. But he wasn't one of these ones that was trying to convert you. I just saw the way he was eating and what he was doing with supplements and things, and I was curious because he wasn't forcing it down me. Because if people try and force things down me, I'm just not going to listen, basically. I'll listen, but I'm less likely to take it on board, I think. So I just asked him, like, tell me more about this. Tell me, why are you vegan? It's interesting. And by this point, I'd started to reduce my meat intake anyway, because Australia's meat's very expensive. And so that was like one driving factor. And I was also more concerned about things being grass-fed and just organic farming and stuff, because it's good for the environment. So, I was then talking to him, and he says, maybe you should watch a documentary called What the Health if you're interested, and Cowspiracy, and they're on Netflix. So I did, and there's this whole, you could call it conspiracy of the food agencies, especially in places like America, because I don't know, I think they've probably got the strongest lobbying industries. It's very capitalistic in that country, just like a lot of countries, obviously. And just how, like the milk industry is giving schools milk and saying, like, look, milk's good for you. And like the evidence is to the contrary. And so there's like these whole massive lobbying groups that exist in America and other places as well, which sort of keeps the status quo. And they'll be telling you things like, oh, you need lots of protein, you need to eat your meat, because that's where you get all your protein from. And look at me, I'm not wasting away here. So that was like the first step. So that was me going vegetarian. And then my friend invited me to go to this thing. What would you call it? I don't know. It's sort of like a protest, but it's more like it's activism. That's the word. And this was on the streets, in one of the main streets in Melbourne. I think it's Burke Street, actually, for anyone who knows that area. And they have musicians. They've got a tram. It's all like pedestrianised, and so they get a lot of people walking through. And there's this organisation called Anonymous for the Voiceless. Some people will think they're a bit, over the top and stuff, but anyway. And they have these TVs on them. They'll have like a battery pack, and they'll put a TV on them, and the TV is playing some videos of animal cruelty and things. And so I was doing this on what was probably about a 35 degrees Celsius day, very hot, and I had a hot TV on top of me, and I stood there for an hour. So it was like a meditation. It was kind of nice in a way. But after an hour, I was like, all right, I'm out. I'm tapping out. I'm coming out. And I felt like a bit of an imposter, actually, because there's all these people asking me, like, oh, how long have you been vegan and stuff? And I'm like, I'm not really, but I didn't say that. I was like, oh, yeah. And there ends up being a bit of like, oh, non-vegan's a stupid thing. And I think that's not a good way of going about things. But the thing that actually then transitioned me to being vegan was this leaflet they had. So it was a leaflet about eggs and where did they come from and all this stuff. And so the kicker for me was, it was saying, what happens to all the male eggs, or all the male chickens? So obviously all the females are there laying the eggs, sorry. So they're laying the eggs, and then, and then the cycle continues, and then there's going to be some that hatch and stuff, and some that aren't eaten. But what happens to the ones that are male? They just get blended, put in a blender. And I saw these images and like sort of read this, and I thought, it looks like my 6 egg omelette days are over, because this is what my breakfast was. And yeah, just like sort of switched then. And you sort of learn over time how to eat as well, but I'll leave it at that for now.
Beautiful journey, and like I can understand the amount of activism you described about, because on my initial guests on podcast, it was around my second or third podcast, and I had world's first vegan mountaineer to climb Mount Everest, and that too not once but twice. I had this guy on my podcast, and he's an Indian. So he said that he was naturally vegetarian. He was working in US, as he was a software engineer. He was working in a company in US, and he was too fat. So one day, like he was late, or something happened, and his boss said something to him, and like after that he started riding bicycle, and slowly when he turned into fitness, he came India for a small vacation. He went with his wife to a hill station in India. There he saw mountains, and he was like, I want to climb them. And by the time he prepared himself, he also had around 2001, he had this idea in his mind when he saw a video on how the dairy industry is working, how they are treating animals, cows, and how these animals are kept. So after that, he thought that I want to be an activist in terms of spreading awareness on vegan diet. And currently he has climbed Mount Everest twice. He have climbed several Everest, maybe five or ten mountains which are around 6,000 feet height. And like he still has around body fat which is near to those people who are doing keto diet, around 10 to 15% of body fat. So I'm like, these kind of personalities also can turn vegan and can sustain that. So I think people can understand and accept the concept of veganism. So we have these kind of multiple peoples who are turning vegan, and are showing the world that your fitness and nutrition will not get affected. Like we have replacement for milk as well. Instead of cow and buffalo milk, we have soya milk for that. Instead of proteins, just based on animal protein, we have plant-based proteins. So I think there are multiple options coming up in terms of proper replacement for animal dietary to plant dietary or vegan dietary. So now moving on to mindset, which I earlier said that I want to know how you changed your mindset. Like I want to know that, do you think, like, I have this theory that mindset is not only dependent on you thinking about one thing and then working on it. I think that mindset is something which you generate with continuous process of thoughts. For example, like you had this thought of veganism, that okay, let me try veganism. Then you started thinking about it, you started learning about it, and with curiosity, with interest, and with the appropriate environment you had with your friend who was also vegan. So I think these perfect combination of thought, curiosity, environment helped you to change your mindset from keto, non-veg to vegan. So like what's your theory on change of mindset, and how have you been able to accomplish this complete change of mindset and lifestyle for you?
Yeah, I think the first thing with that is probably having an open mind and being curious. I think if you're listening to this, you're probably in those camps already. And if you've not turned off because I've talked about veganism already, then you're probably slightly open-minded at least. So well done on that one. So yeah, I think it's about being open, and everybody, well, not everyone, but I think a lot of people think they're open-minded, but they're not. And what does it mean to be open-minded? I think it's about actually being able to not accept ideas that come in, but it's to be able to listen to them, query them, investigate them, do some research, and don't just, anyone can Google anything and get any result. Like, that's obvious. You can, if you want to find a particular answer, you'll get it, right? So it's sort of looking into the science as well. This is why I like science-based podcasts, as in, things that are based on scientific research. So, but at the same time, there's other things that you can't explain. So if you go back to physics as well, it's like, what is dark energy? What is part of the universe? What is, a lot of the universe made out of? It doesn't actually make sense with the physics we currently have. Just with gravity, for example. So they have to add in this extra thing that we can't see called dark matter, dark energy, these things. And it's accounted for something like 60% of the universe. So this is just, it's crazy. So there's a lot that is unexplained. So I'm not saying just listen to science, just because science is the best guess of a model of reality that we're in at the moment. And it explains some things. Like if I drop my pen, I'm not going to do that because I make a noise, but if I drop my pen, it's going to fall at a certain rate because we know the laws of gravity, and we figured that out. So yeah, I think there's definitely a sort of openness. And you were talking about environment and all that sort of stuff. I think there's a few different levels. If you're going to transition, let's say, from one thing to another, let's say you're not very fit at the moment, but you want to be. There's probably an identity aspect to a lot of that. So if you see yourself as a fat person or an unfit person, then does an unfit person go for a run? Probably not. So if you start to think, I'm not saying positive think and just go, I'm a fit person, because that doesn't work either. But it's literally having that shift. And sometimes it's not just a matter of you brute forcing it. So sometimes you've got blind spots about something as well. So a while ago on Facebook, I was trying to look for next steps in a different career and maybe side projects like I've got now. And I was asking people what's good about me, what are some positive characteristics that I have that I think I might have said something about I'm not aware of, like having blind spots. And one of the ones that my friend's dad said, so I knew him quite well when I was younger, he says, you're funny, but you don't know it. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then you sort of get this feedback a few times, and then then you kind of start to accept it. So there's that kind of like, I want this, accepting that I am this, or I'm going to be this, and then, making actionable steps in between. Because if you just said, I'm going to start a podcast, or I'm going to be a podcast host, which you obviously have done, then there's a bunch of things you have to do in between, because you have to learn how to record it, you have to learn how to edit it, or get somebody else to do it. You need to find these people that can do that stuff for you. You need to get guests. How do you get guests? And all of these things, they're potentially like sort of projects in themselves. But it's sort of breaking that down into what's the next thing that will push me forward a step. And there's all sorts of things as well around habits and all of that. But I mean, there's quite a lot of stuff to go into there. But what's more interesting for you, I guess, Jay?
True. like these problems which you mentioned is like when you say that okay, I'm gonna lose weight, I'm fit, and you just think that this not gonna work. And I have seen these people who are like, okay, I'm gonna manifest it. I'll think. They write in paper, they write on soft boards, they place it everywhere around them. But when they are asked to that, okay, when is your gym time? When are you going to gym? They are like, no, I'm manifesting it. I'm like, how?
Yeah, and I want to put a bit of a reality check on that. So I've been very close to somebody who's very into that stuff, and there's some element of truth or usefulness about that. So I'm not saying that you just think and things happen. That's not really what happens. But through neuro-linguistic programming training, NLP training, I'm an NLP practitioner. I'm learning to be a master practitioner at the moment as well. In that, they talk about what is a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. Tony Robbins talks about this as well. And this is basically, what do you pay attention to? So let's imagine you've just bought a BMW. You are now going to notice BMWs everywhere around you. I'm speaking from experience here, because that part of your brain is now looking for that thing. And there's this really sort of silly experiment where you go, okay, look around the room and look for everything that is brown. And then you look around, let's do it. And then you go, okay, so tell me all the things that are red. And then you'll struggle because your filter, your brain has a bunch of filters in it, because you're getting in many million bits per second through your eyes alone, and then your brain's having to process that and eliminate loads of stuff. So, whilst I'm talking here, there might be the noise of my housemates and stuff, but I might not notice it at all because I'm so into like talking to you right now. So to bring this back to goals and being fit or whatever, if you are like daily going, right, I'm going to focus on fitness, I'm going to set an intention today to do something related to fitness or improve something, then your brain is going to be looking for that stuff. And then, if somebody talks to you about fitness and goes, oh, I've got this really good workout plan, or I'm going to go for a run today, do you want to? You're more likely to be like, yes, I'm going to follow that up. And then the part that sort of, I think there's a confusion about like law of attraction, manifestation, and just actually noticing stuff. Like I said, a lot of the universe is unexplained, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that you thought something and therefore it happened. Things happen and there's chaos. Whether we know the relationship between that, I have no idea. But what we do know is what I just said. You notice the things that you're sort of paying attention to each day and that you're setting intentions about. So there is, there's some truth to it, but also you got to be a bit critical.
True. And like I want to clear, because I have these ideas. I have read through a few articles in terms of manifestation, law of attraction. It goes as like it is similar to placebo effect. It is not been proved that it is 100% like placebo effect, but it says that some articles say that it is similar to placebo effect, where you fool your brain enough that it tends to believe in something. For example, if I fool my brain enough that I'm fit, so my brain, when it believes blindly that okay, I am fit, so then my brain works and make me work in such a way that I tend to be fit. And that's why my brain itself will give me ideas and thoughts in terms of nutrition, fitness, gym, which gym is good, what machines are good, which program is good for you, which is not. And when you have blindly believed and when you started working on it, then it slowly start manifesting. And when you ultimately truly become fit, or the body which you want, which you wanted always, which you are manifesting to yourself, and when it comes, you reach to that stage. At that time, your brain thinks that if I started working 6 months ago, believing that I was this 8% body fat, six pack abs, and now after 6 months I have reached to this level, and then it breaks its beliefs, and then it brings it to reality, and then you start understanding that okay, now I have manifested it. Instead of now you are not blindly believing, now you are understanding that I have manifested it. You look back to the route which you take, and you start collecting information which you have already gathered, and then use it, manipulate it to sustain the sustain the amount of achievement which you have received. So that's how I perceive manifestation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's it's a sort of, it's an interesting topic because I don't want to get into religion and beliefs and stuff, but I mean this goes to the identity. There's this I'm going to get the wrong word here. Okay, so it's Dilt's neurological levels. So there's a triangle. There's loads of triangles about all sorts of stuff. But basically, you were talking about environment and things like that. So at the bottom of this Dilt's neurological levels, it's a sort of framework for change. And so you can work for each of these layers. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but the bottom one is environment. So if you change your environment, things will change a bit. But right at the top is about your identity and your purpose. So if your identity and purpose is about helping other people, then you will almost certainly do more things to try and help more people. But if you're around people, let's say, in your environment that are quite altruistic and quite, caring and loving, you'll pick some of that up as well, no doubt. But does that mean you're going to start, running a podcast about self-help? Probably not. And so it's that difference. Like your identity now, Jay, is a podcast host, as well as other identity pieces as well. And as part of that, you'll have beliefs about, I'm a good podcast host, I ask good questions, I've got energy, I'm enthusiastic, all that kind of stuff, I'm articulate, I'm smart, whatever. There's all these things. And if you didn't believe all of those and you came on and did your intro, you'd be like, hi, it's Jay, I'm doing a podcast, and it wouldn't be that engaging because you didn't have that self-belief. And self-belief, where does that come from? Well, that's a whole load of things, isn't it? But it's practice. There's an element of just doing it. I didn't get good at public speaking because I thought I was going to be good at it. I did it through repetition over and over and over, and I still find it nerve-wracking to start doing some training to people. Well, that's not a bad thing. You get these people that and here's an interesting thing I learned on a podcast I did recently as well, is you've got these range of human emotions, and so apparently there's 7 basic emotions that we have. 5 of them are negative, one's in the middle, and I want to talk about that, and one's positive, let's just say happiness or something along those lines. So the middle one is excitement/anxiety. So your body feels that emotion, but it's then what you make of it. So if you're like, oh, I'm really anxious, oh, this is terrible, I'm anxious, if I thought that before I started training, that would probably get me into a sort of negative loop of thinking about how bad this is and whatever. But it's the meaning you make behind those feelings as well. Obviously, you can make any meaning out of anything. So if you then decide to think, okay, I'm feeling nervous and excited. I'm excited to, tell these people this information and for them to learn as well. That's a different mindset to the thinking I'm really anxious. And so it's that what you make of those feelings as well, which is important.
True. Like you said, that there's something in middle which like excitement and anxiety. It is like for a little bit of simpler words, if once one explains, it's like how you perceive examination. I know everything, or paper's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
I know everything. I'm super excited. I'm gonna score 100%. Paper is gonna be hard. I'm gonna fail. So it's like it's two meaning to the same event. It depends on how you perceive it. Like I have this whole notion. That there's an Indian voice application called Scenes by Avalon, and there I'm a verified creator. I'm taking sessions every alternate day for 1 hour, and there I talk about a particular topic related to self-help, mindset, positivity, and all that. And there my basic level of telling people to understand is like is on this one baseline which I follow, is like perspective has the power to change your life. If you know how to perceive things, it is easy for you to manipulate things so that you actually manifest it in reality. For example, if I know how to perceive my exams, I know that if I know that I'll get excited, I'll be happy, then I'm able to give paper much more easily, much more fluently, and there I tend to score good rather than giving paper in anxiety, in tension. So and also this works on how you personally behave or react to a particular stimuli you receive. For example, if someone gives you a negative feedback and you just take it on your ego, and when you understand yourself, when you're more self-aware, when you know that okay, I'm taking it to my ego, I'm getting more aggressive in such small negative feedback or negative events which are happening. Now you know what's your reaction. Now you know how you what stimuli is good for your happy reaction, is for your bad reaction. Now, when you know you have the data, run it like an experiment. Use it in such a way that, like for example, if someone you are going to someone for feedback, you know that I'm gonna get aggressive. Now, what you do is, whatever feedback comes to me, what extra thing makes me happy is to have a chocolate after that. So I'll reward myself a chocolate, that after receiving a feedback I'll have a chocolate, I'll have a piece of chocolate there. So I won't take it on my ego, I won't go in drastic negative emotions, I have something to draw me back to neutrality position. And these experiments you can run with yourself so that you can understand and optimize yourself in such a way that whatever work you want to do, whatever thing you want to manifest, you can do it at your own maximum capacity.
Yeah. And the feeling stuff and how you take things, obviously that's kind of a choice, it's also kind of not a choice. So what I mean is you'll just have some reactions to stuff that you can't help. Like if someone slams a door next to you very loudly, you'll jump. That's a reflex. That's a body sort of, it's just completely ingrained within your body. Like if you touch a hot pan, your finger, you'll take it away. And there's similar things with situations or people in your life that are so deeply embedded within you. I'm not going to say it's innate or completely, it's not a born thing. But let's say you have a difficult relationship with your parents, and as soon as they ask you questions, you start to feel annoyed. That's just a set of patterns that you've repeated lots of times and is programmed into you. So that is something that is really hard to change. And I've had similar things to that, where I've noticed that I would just start snapping at people, and it would be based on something as minor as that, just having that previous experience in the past. And your body just remembers, your body and your brain remembers all that stuff. And you gotta think, there's the awareness part of it again. Like if you're going to improve anything, you need to be aware of it. And I sort of want to bring this towards sort of feelings, depression, anxiety, stuff like that, because if you are aware that you're, like you said, having these experiments of like, I've been in this interview situation or feedback situation, and you realize that you get defensive or you start holding your chest, there's wasn't going to go here, but to depersonalize it is quite interesting. So what you can do is just feel the feelings that are happening within you. So if you're feeling like your blood is boiling, your adrenaline's rushing, all that stuff, feel that feeling and just try and just feel the feeling, because a lot of us will try and reject it and be like, I don't want to be angry, I don't want to be anxious, don't want to be depressed. Just be curious about it. How does this feel? And don't label it. It's quite interesting. Equally, if you're ruminating, thinking, anxious, whatever, you can then label it. Labeling things in those senses just kind of calms your mind. It actually moves where the thoughts are happening, and the label actually changes how that appears. So if you're meditating, let's say, and you have these thoughts that come up, and then you notice it, one of the ways you can deal with that is just to go thinking, and that usually calms your mind down. So it's quite interesting, really. And so how can you build this awareness? I think I've mentioned already, meditation is quite useful. There's so many really good apps nowadays. I've used Waking Up, Headspace, 10% Happier. There's a free one as well. Like most of these you can do for 10 days for free. There's one called Medito, which is good as well. I've been using that recently. And all of these will take you through steps, and just starting, focusing on the breath. That's one thing. And, that is one thing to do. But equally, just sitting there for 10 minutes a day, that's really going to help because you'll build a self-awareness. But at the same time, you need to take that within your day as well, and just realize, I would say the places to start are the places where you react most. So when I say react, it's having that emotional reaction that you don't really want. It's not very useful, and just going, okay, noticing that, and I've done this myself, and it, just being aware puts that sort of little 1 second, 2 second gap in between where you can go, oh, I'm feeling this. I'm not just going to shout back at them. It's introducing that little gap. It's really useful.
True, and like I do have like one meditation which you already said. Like I have these two more suggestions to people is like start documenting your daily life. Like before going to bed, take a diary, start writing your day, how it went. Because now when you're writing your day, you are actually rewinding your day, but not from the perspective which you actually were in, not from the emotions you actually went through. You are rewinding your day through a third person perspective. Now you're looking yourself as someone, as an entity. You're looking someone else as an entity, and now you are visualizing it. You're writing it down from a third person perspective, that okay, Jed did this, other person did this, and this happened. And when you start practicing it, slowly your brain starts thinking every event into third person perspective. And when you get that third person's perspective, you tend to analyze things much better. Now you know that okay, I did this, that's why this event took place. This guy or this person did this, that's why this event took place. And now you have a little more self-awareness to understand that okay, I react like this, so I may try and do this. And when you do this experiment, how can you do such experiment? Because before doing the experiment, you actually go through the feeling which you are going through. Like you exactly said, that first feel what is happening inside you. So like when you're receiving the data through meditation, through writing journals, and the third is create a WhatsApp group with yourself. Whenever something happens, just send a voice note in that group and listen to that voice note before sleeping. So these all kind of practices like meditation, writing down and doing WhatsApping your daily event and listening to it at the end of the day helps you rewind things on third person perspective, and it helps you to understand and re-go through the feeling without being in that particular environment. Because sometimes it's like you said that like parents are telling you and you get annoyed, and that environment is so confined and you're so programmed to get annoyed that it becomes difficult for you to feel what is happening inside you. So when you're writing things down, when you're listening to same emotions again, you're actually isolating the same feeling, but removing the environment which is fueling it. So now you are going through the same feeling, but not having that environment which is confining you to act accordingly. Now you're just simply sitting and feeling through it. So these kind of practices can help you getting more and more self-aware.
Definitely.
And talking about mindset. So according to me, if you want to change your mindset, I'm taking very small example. For example, if you have exams tomorrow and you're so addicted, or you are so like attached to that, no, I want to complete this Netflix show, I want to watch it and then only I'm going to study. Like you and after watching through all long movies and series of Netflix, you feel low and you just go to sleep, and tomorrow exams you have not studied anything. So like these kind of situations where you want to change your mindset, these self-awareness practices plus the experimentations you do with yourself, these combinations will help you change your mindset. And And the experiment are like, for example, how to tell them, experiment is like, there are different pathways. For example, you know that, okay, I am wasting a lot of time on Netflix. I want to study. You want to study, this is your point B. You are wasting your time, this is your point A. You have set on Google Map, you are on point A, you want to go to point B. Now direction is the experimentation you have to walk through. You have the direction, okay, I am at point A, point B is on the eastern side. I want to go to the eastern side. Now the path which you take, you might get traffic, you might change the path. So these paths is what you have to make for yourself in terms of experimentations. It may be guided through experienced person, your parents, your teachers, your professors, your seniors. They might help you to dig out a path for you, and it's your choice to walk that path or not. It's your choice to make something of your own, or to walk the similar path which they walked. It is completely your choice. But accepting and understanding their side, their pathway, is like you are going through three different pathways suggested by Google from A to B. It's you have to select one path and walk through that road. You might get traffic, you might get accidents, but it's your choice you have made, and you have to walk through it.
Yeah. I was thinking about sort of goals and direction, and I really like the analogy actually, or the metaphor of setting a direction, going from A to B. And it's true, you're going to get these obstacles in the way, and to some extent you can predict them as well. You can sort of think about what might come up. But something I wanted to add to it as well was about setting sort of intentions / I want to talk about intentions. I'm going to talk about sort of feelings in this sense now. So let's go back to the exam example, since we used that quite a bit. So if you're going to have an exam, you're going to have exams, right? You sign up for this. No one's forcing you to have exams except for when you're at school. But even then, when they're coming. So there's that date. So how do you want to feel on exam day? So you could ask yourself a question like, how do I want to feel when I'm at my best self? How do I want to feel for exam day? And you can work back from that and go, okay, so for me to feel that way, what do I need to do? And I mean, obviously, as we mentioned, to get good at anything, you need to practice. I mean, a lot of people, there's a lot of smart people that can get by quite well at school, early levels, and just fly through it because it's simple for them. But that's not going to work forever. So if you're setting your intentions, let's say it's a university exam, no one just does that by accident and does really well. Not many people anyway. So to do that, you're going, right, so what do I need to make myself feel good on that day? And obviously, there's this whole revision part of stuff. It's learning, You have to revisit all of the exam papers. I'm going to talk about what I did, because I did quite well as well. I looked at all the exam papers. I did all the past exam questions. I had a plan for when I needed to have done them all. And again, there's this feedback loop. So which bits have I not been as good at? Which bits am I not confident at? I'm not good at public speaking, so I'm going to go and learn how to public speak. Obviously that's probably not on your exam, but you're working backwards. So then, how am I going to get good at that? I'm going to go to a public speaking club. And with your exams, it's like, I'm not good at this part, so I might go and talk to my tutor about this, or talk to my friends, or practice this part over and over again because I don't understand it. I mean, there's tons about learning how to learn. There's a really good online course actually, literally called Learning How to Learn. It's one of the top rated courses I think it's on Coursera. Really good. Looks like you've done it. That's awesome. So that's part of the whole process. But also on the day, what will make you feel, good about that particular day? And obviously there's all the stuff that's behind the day, the preparation, the work. You have to do that. But on the day, what will make you feel calmer? What will make you feel in a not too stressed state? It's good to have a little bit of stress, and because that'll motivate you. But what will get you to that right in between state? And so the preparation's already there. But on that day, are you going to set off early so that you are not stressed about that and running through the door? Because that is not going to be the best state to walk in, is it? And are you going to sleep well the day before? Yes, you should. So what are you going to do? Are you going to drink really late at night? Because no, you're not. You're going to go to bed early, maybe you listen to a story that makes you fall asleep, whatever it is for you. And on that day, you go in and you talk to friends who are, good mates and you take your mind off it just before you go into the exam. And so, I've done a lot of this stuff myself. I might not have thought about the whole, I'm going to go early, but you do, like if you've got any sense at all. So yeah, I think setting the sort of feeling intentions for a goal or a day is important as well. And you could then add in, so if today my intention is to have fun, I'll think of things that are fun to do. It's sort of simple, isn't it, really? Or if my intention is to be nice to people, then maybe I'll meditate and maybe I'll eat well, all these things. So, I think that's an important part of everything.
Sure, 100%. So, I want to come to the end of this podcast. So before ending this, I want to know how was this podcast, because you are also a podcaster. So how was this podcast, and what would be your personal tips or advices for me?
Interesting. Well, I've enjoyed it a lot as well, and we've obviously got a lot of common ground in terms of mindset and things like that. Yeah, it's been really fun. So you asked for feedback as well on the podcast, is it, or just in general, or just like life direction stuff? Right. Okay. I think if I'm gonna maybe broaden that to you and your audience, I think basically, a lot of people are in a kind of victim mindset, and everybody can get into that. Like, why has this happened to me? And I think I feel the worst in my daily life because I'm a full-time engineer as well. When I'm like, why aren't these people doing the things I'm asking them? And it's not a very good question, because you'll find all the reasons, won't you? If you ask yourself a question, it's like Google. If you ask yourself that, it might come up with some answers like, because you're incompetent, because they don't like you. But if you sort of change that to something like, well, how can I get them to help me more? Or how can I, I think it's much more, excuse me, it's much more useful. So you just got to be careful about the questions you ask yourself, and be looking, as you were talking about your Google Map thing, what's the direction you're heading in, and what's your sort of purpose and direction in general, because that is going to set all the things in between. Because I'm into fitness now, so I this morning did some pull-ups and stuff because I wanted to feel good for this podcast as well. So just think about what do you want your identity to be, and that is going to guide you.
Sure, 100%. Thank you so much for coming on this show and blessing us with your ideas, with your story, and motivating us with your concepts of mindset and motivation. So thank you so much for joining in. We hope that we'll have few more podcasts on similar topics to help our audiences to learn and understand more about themselves.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jay.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.